5 days, we hit the federal debt ceiling. What does that mean? If you think of the debt ceiling as our nation's credit card, that credit card will max out on Monday. Moving some money around will supposedly hold us until August, but it's a tug of war between Democrats and Republicans. Utah Republican Jason Chaffetz is holding out for a deal ahead of the deadline. Congressman Chaffetz sits on the House Budget Committee. He joins me tonight from Capitol Hill. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks, Alec. Glad to be here.
So, look, here's the thing I've just got to challenge you on right out of the box here. I know I listened to Speaker Boehner speak the other night, and he is saying we need to cut trillions of dollars, no revenue, driving a hard bargain, as are you. But I looked at your own budget bill, the budget that the House passed, sanctioned by Speaker Boehner and Paul Ryan. You require $1 trillion of borrowing for your own budget over the next year. So why can't you just say to the American public, we all know we need to borrow. Let's get this done so we don't sacrifice our credit rating and then figure out the large, tough issues starting next week.
Well, look, if the so-called Paul Ryan budget actually puts us on a trajectory to not only balance the budget, but to actually pay off the debt. And it takes a long time to get from here to there. But if we're moving in that kind of trajectory, yeah, then I think you would see people vote to increase the debt ceiling. But to just unilaterally increase the debt ceiling without those kind of cuts over the long term, no, we're not going to do that.
Here's the thing. First of all, I got to challenge you. Paul Ryan's budget proposal, and as you know, I'm not a fan of it, doesn't balance the budget until 2040. It adds $6 trillion of debt to the budget, to our nation over the next decade. I mean, those are facts. I think we can agree on those. And so even if we were going to do that, we'd have to increase the federal debt ceiling by $6 trillion. We're not going to agree on the parameters of the budget between now and next Monday, nor is this the moment to really have that debate. So why don't we get this out of the way to calm the credit markets and the securities markets, and then next week begin what will be a very healthy and hopefully intellectually driven debate about what the budget should look like.
Well, I think it's fundamentally wrong to continue to kick this thing down the road, to just punt on this and say, oh, well, we'll deal with that after a presidential election. No, we got a crisis right now, and there's some of us that believe we can no longer delay on this. We have to make the cuts right now, right here today. And by the way, I should mention, I would be in favor. In fact, I would encourage Speaker Boehner, let's have a straight up or down vote. Let's see how many people on the Democrat and Republican side of the aisle would actually vote to unilaterally raise the debt ceiling by, say, $2 with no cuts. I don't think it would pass. I think we'd be very bipartisan to say, no, we're not going to do that.
Well, look, Congressman, I'm not saying push it back until after the 2012 presidential election. I'm with you. We need to figure this out. I would say starting next Monday, but we're not going to figure it out between now and Monday, and I think you and I could both accept that as a matter of just how Washington works. But next, let's get the debt ceiling out of the way, because everybody's plans require significant borrowing over the next year or 2 years, 3 years. So let's get this out of the way so we don't drive interest rates up and then begin that very healthy debate. That makes sense to me. Let me challenge you also in one or two things. And I know Speaker Boehner's speech wasn't yours. I don't want to sort of hang that around your neck. But he did say some things in there that are problematic to me just as a matter of raw economics. He said government spending now is crowding out private sector investment. Crowding out is the theory of when the government does things and drives interest rates up, the private sector can't borrow. That's simply false right now. Interest rates at a historic low. There is no crowding out. I mean, that was a predicate of a speech.
But I think there are some fundamentals that a lot of us would agree upon. With the massive federal spending that we have, we're about to see hyperinflation. We don't have an energy plan. That's why we're seeing rapid rises in energy prices. There are a lot of factors that are coming together, and we do see a rise in interest rates that I think will inevitably happen based on our poor performance here at the federal government. We are borrowing, taxing, and spending too much money. We're pouring too much money into the marketplace, and we've created so much uncertainty that businesses don't know how to make investments. They aren't opening up new manufacturing plants. We are crowding out the capital that needs certainty in order to make the investments that are needed to grow.
As somebody who studied a little bit of economics, this is simply not crowding out. In terms of hyperinflation, there's no sign of it. Energy prices are not because of the federal deficit. Energy prices are driven by the aspects of that market in the Middle East and the dynamics in North Africa, completely unrelated to federal borrowing.
Our federal government is not happening. It is not helping. It is absolutely not helping.
Congressman, we energy policy, and we could have that discussion. We'll do it some other night. I look forward to it, but that's not really where we're falling down right now. And the markets, you're a market guy, the markets are saying in their interest rates, the federal government is borrowing at historic lows. This is simply not a situation where the market is saying, oh my goodness, we are going the way of Greece. What was the trigger for Greece? The credit default swaps there showed their interest rates were skyrocketing. Point to me one sign of an increase in interest rates for the federal government.
Well, look, we're at our GDP. Our debt is at 95% of GDP. You can no longer continue on that trajectory. And I think the bond markets are quite tired of actually us putting out so much debt. I mean, in February alone, our deficit was $220 billion. For the shortest month of the year, we can't continue on that trajectory. And until the markets see that we're going to actually pay off our debt and be responsible, I think you're going to see a natural rise in interest rates because they're tired of us issuing so much debt. That's just the economic reality.
But, Congressman, I'm with you. We need to deal with this. It's a medium-term, a long-term problem. But the markets are simply refuting everything you just said. They're simply not driving rates up. I want to come back to another issue.
But what about the unemployment rate? I mean, you have unemployment at 9%. All of this massive government spending, did it do anything to change the unemployment rate?
Absolutely.
No, it didn't. It did not. We have to make the climate more conducive for businesses to grow, not for government to grow. Since Barack Obama took office until now, there are 161,000 additional federal workers. That's fundamentally wrong. We can't keep going on that trajectory. That's why we've got to make some fundamental changes, like instituting the Ryan budget, in order to put us back on track.
All right, look,
for guys like me to raise the debt ceiling, we need to do something that dramatic.
I got to give you one thing. You're a first-term congressman. You're learning to filibuster real well, and I got to give it to you on that one. Look, I disagree with you about 99% of what you just said as a matter of economics.
Thank you. If you agreed with me, it scared me to death that I'd never win re-election.
All right,
so
one thing
I'm going to use that on my campaign commercial. I hope you're all right with it.
One thing we agree on is just skiing in Utah is great stuff. We'll have to go out and do that together someday. All right. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.